Okay, so I've been sitting on this for a while because I wanted to give my thoughts some time to, marinate. What? But I saw the Castlevania show on Netflix last week, and I was absolutely and utterly surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it. So I want to talk about it. Now, I'm going to start off with what I didn't like just to get it out of the way first. And it took me a while to actually realize that this was a problem. It took some friends pointing it out to me and stuff like that, talking about it, sharing their own experiences, but I can't help but notice that none of the classic Castlevania music is actually in the show. I mean, maybe there was a rights issue, maybe they couldn't get the music on the show, maybe they didn't want it, I don't know. I don't know why, but none of the classic Castlevania music was on the show, and that feels like a kind of a misstep, because a lot of the music in the original Castlevania games is the most memorable part of the games. In addition to how excruciatingly difficult it is. I mean, everyone freaking knows Vampire Killer. I don't need to spell this out to people, but could have used a track or two in maybe even in the fight scenes. I don't know. Bit of a misstep. I also saw a lot of talk that the pacing and the exposition was pretty bad in the show, which you could make a case about that, especially the first 2 episodes. There was a lot of exposition to kind of, world build and set everything up, but it personally didn't bother me that much, but maybe that's because I'm not, like, a hardcore Castlevania fan. I guess I'm a filthy casual or something, I don't know. I only know some of Castlevania. I know enough to understand what's happening, and getting the information to set everything up, it felt nice to me. Maybe upon repeated viewings, I won't like it as much because I guess it'll feel like maybe they're force-feeding me the information. I don't know, but it didn't really bother me so much. However, I will say that in regards to the pacing, you could probably cut down everything that was shown to about, 3 episodes, and it would still be just as good. Not a lot of it was lost. The show builds itself up as if it's going to have this big journey to stop Dracula, because, it's Castlevania. You're stopping Dracula. That's how you do. But most of the show takes place in one town, which, I mean, I guess it's supposed to emulate, being in the first level of the game, and, you got your stages, and you're in stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 and whatever. And I guess I can respect that, but there is something to be said about the pacing. I guess, to me, not so much the exposition, but the pacing could have been better. Having said that, though, I honestly thought that this Castlevania show was just going to use the property to create something else and just call it Castlevania to, piggyback off its nostalgia. And basically, the bottom line is that I thought this was going to be, terrible at worst, mediocre at best. But it turned out to have actually been pretty good and pretty faithful to the source material. And that's the most shocking thing here. This was actually a pretty good adaptation of Castlevania 3. Maybe my bar for entertainment is really low or something, I don't know. But I just really enjoyed what I saw of it. I really liked seeing, Dracula. Oh, Dracula. Okay, so the first episode is setting up the whole thing with Dracula and Lisa. And that was actually the thing that sold me about the show right from the get-go. Is that it starts with Dracula and Lisa, and it just shows their chemistry. It, shows how well they get along, all the quipping. You don't need them, you don't need to see them in a relationship. You just see their first introduction, and you just see that they have chemistry right off the bat. And then it skips ahead to her getting killed. That's not a spoiler, that's what happens. That's literally 5 minutes into the show, she dies. But I really liked that they established their relationship by just having them on screen and just having them have chemistry. You don't need to see them actually, date and get married and all of that, because it showed you enough chemistry to let you imagine how those things would work. And, maybe some people would have liked to have seen more of Dracula and Lisa, but I personally thought that it was perfect the way it was, that they showed just what they needed to show for her death to have actual impact. And they also showed her specifically not wanting Dracula to, take revenge on the humans for her, but he does it anyway, and I like that it doesn't fall into the trap of trying to turn Dracula into like a victim of circumstance, of trying to turn him into like a sympathetic bad guy. Take notes, Lords of Shadow. I mean, you feel for Dracula, you feel sorry for him, but it doesn't justify what he's doing. It doesn't justify him becoming a villain. It lets you sympathize, but he's still a bad guy. The people in the show think he's a bad guy. If Lisa was still alive, she would think he's being a bad guy. I like that under all of it, he is still being portrayed as an antagonist. You know, he's still the antagonist. He's not some misunderstood immortal. He is a goddamn evil vampire. And Trevor Belmont, oh my god, Richard Armitage just completely sold it. Like, he was wonderful as Trevor Belmont, and just... Actually, the voice acting in general for everyone in this show was absolutely wonderful. Everyone's delivery was wonderful. Everyone's dialogue felt natural. There was a lot of cursing, but it wasn't so frequent that it made you wonder if they were just cursing for the hell of it. It felt pretty natural, and while there was a lot of gore, and I did have some problems with it personally in a few scenes, it wasn't totally overdone. It was, you know, it was done for some shock value. It was to get the point across of how horrible these things that Dracula is doing, you know, how horrible they are. But it wasn't there at every turn. It was just in, like, small but intense doses. And, you know, that's good. I feel like the show handled that well. I mean, it's not perfect. I already outlined some of the flaws that the show had at the beginning of this video. But overall, for what we got, it was way better than anyone was expecting, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I can't wait to see more episodes. Releasing them 4 episodes at a time is a little weird, but I hear that this was apparently a movie script originally, and when you think about it like that, you can kind of see, like, the movie beats in those 4 episodes, where it definitely feels like a movie, and, you know, I guess I can kind of understand it at that point. It doesn't bother me too much, but it is just kind of like a fun fact. But anyway, Castlevania, pretty solid. Not, you know, the most perfect show that's ever existed, but an absolutely wonderful adaptation of Castlevania 3 if you can get past the heavy exposition and the lack of any iconic music, I guess. Anyway, this is XTRSunburn, and I'll see you guys later.